Torelli and Django jumpers would be great at gymnastics.
What?
How wooed! Can you believe this droid?
Wow, I thought I had a potty mouth.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Star Wars Explained Weekly Q&A. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
And we're going to answer your Star Wars questions, but first, what did we get up to this past weekend?
I went to a bachelor party.
And so did I. Our friend Ashton, who some people might know from the channel when we do Explain It to Me, it was his bachelor party this weekend. I was the best man, not to brag or anything.
Are you the best man at the bachelor party?
Well, I had to plan
wedding?
the whole thing. So
no one was calling you best man, though.
No one treated me with the respect that I deserved, but the best man has to plan the bachelor party. I think it was a good bachelor party.
It was.
We did
you should have demanded more respect
I should have.
As best man.
Yeah, they made fun of me a lot, but we all make fun of each other.
That's
what happens. But we planned like a Taskmaster party for Ashton, and you can just roll as many clips as you want.
3, 2, 1, pour.
Fine, you're just in case I get shot in my face.
Yeah, of course.
So we have the quest tokens,
Yep.
which are
I'm looking for 6.
one.
Yeah, I've got 2 minutes. No, I mean, you put down a 2 on that one, right?
Yeah, that's
the wound roll.
And then he rolled on 3, 2, 1. Damn it! I think it's lies.
But basically, if you've ever seen Taskmaster, we all thought up tasks for everyone to do, and we all made each other look like idiots and fools, and it was very fun.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical about everyone's tasks because everyone was allowed to submit tasks, even multiple tasks, and I was like, some of these might be really, really ridiculous, but I feel like everyone did a really good job. It was fun.
I honestly do think yours was one of my favorite ones. Molly had everyone do TikTok challenges together, which I thought was very funny.
Easy.
They had to go to TikTok and find a couples challenge, which if you search for that, you're probably going to find a lot of the ones that we did. So they're like couples, like physical challenges, but they could also pick from some on my phone. And if they chose to find one themselves, they could have found some much easier challenges to do. So,
But yeah, you had a bunch of difficult ones saved, and it was fun to see everyone attempt that. Speaking of parties, we've been plugging Mos Eisley for the past few weeks because Dragon Con is almost here, and I wanted to just go ahead and tell everyone that on Monday, we're putting out our first tier list. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and people have been requesting that we do rankings and stuff, and my whole thing was I just didn't want to do the same old of like, let's put the movies in a tier list. It's like everyone's done that. So I wanted to do goofier things. So we are ranking the bands of the Star Wars galaxy, Figrin Dan, Max Rebo, and so on. But to help us out, we invited members of real bands. The Mos Eisley crew is joining us, and they're going to be doing our very first tier list. And it wound up being a lot bigger and longer than I was expecting it to be, but it was a super fun, goofy chat. Lots of laughs, lots of jokes. So keep an eye out for that on Monday.
yeah, that was really fun to record. And it did turn out to be a longer video because we just kept thinking of more instances of bands or music in the Star Wars universe to talk about. So
I thought of like the main ones and threw in a couple obscure ones, and then I opened it up to the floor. I was like, is there any other band or musical group we want to talk about? And there were some that I was embarrassed to not include, frankly. Most of them were a little goofier, but it was fun to make. And finally, before we get into questions, I just wanted to point out that D23 happened yesterday, last night when you're watching it. The big Disney Entertainment panel happened. We're recording this on Thursday, so there is potential for big news to have dropped. We don't know what's going to happen. hopefully we'll get some news or trailers or something.
We think there's going to be a Skeleton Crew teaser just because one of the actors mentioned it on Instagram. So
yeah, so we'll see
hopefully-
if that happened.
hopefully you'll have a teaser breakdown video coming soon.
Basically, if anything happened that is noteworthy, there's going to be a different video about D23. If nothing happened, then I'm going to just keep on sleeping this weekend. I'm going to sleep in. Moving on to questions, John B. Hall asks, what would the Olympics look like in Star Wars? Timely question.
I have really been enjoying watching the Olympics.
So have I.
It's so nice to just have so many options of things to watch throughout the day. But the Star Wars Olympics, that is intriguing.
Well, first, I assume instead of, countries, it would be different planets coming together to compete, which I think would be a lot of fun. I guess they'd have to choose a host planet. A Tatooine has a ton of space, so I don't know if they might be too far out of the way to host. They might not have the resources to host.
I mean, they host the Olympics all over the world, but it does take a lot of resources, and it frankly ruins every town that it comes through.
Atlanta made it through okay.
Did it?
So where would we host it? Like, Coruscant is an obvious central choice, but where would they put it? There's no space.
Yeah, they'd have to build an arena.
Maybe, we haven't seen like the sports side of Star Wars very much. There are sports, and Servants of the Empire was a young adult, young reader, middle grade book series that Zara Leonis was on the sports team at his Star Wars equivalent of a high school.
Mm-hmm.
So they exist, but we just haven't really seen a whole lot of it.
Sure.
So maybe Coruscant actually does have the setup for it in its infrastructure already.
I'm sure there are a lot of planets that have structures that could accommodate something like this, but we might not know them off the top of our heads.
Or I wonder, they could build something kind of like in the High Republic, the fair at Valo. They built a bunch of floating platforms, so you could just host track and field up on a floating circle.
Yeah.
Maybe they would do something like that.
They could do all the water events on Camino.
Yeah, well, see,
but they'd have to clean the water.
yeah, if you thought cleaning the Sin was a pain, we got to clean the entire planet. Well, I wonder if instead of choosing a central planet, maybe they would choose a sector of space where, water events are on Camino, and then around the corner, although Camino's kind of out of the way too, so maybe Mon Cala would be a better place for water events.
I think if we're talking about space and Star Wars, people wouldn't mind if they had to just jump through light speed a couple of different places to go and compete.
It's just in my head, I'm equating countries to planets. But, maybe you'd have to do a sector of space.
Lit's talk about sports.
Okay.
First thing I thought of was something similar to the hammer throw for the Ewoks. Throw their little
slingshots.
Slings.
You mentioning Ewoks just makes me think of competitive hunting. The most dangerous game. And they never let indoor host ever again.
I thought of the hammer throw. I thought of something with logs.
Sure. Log trapping.
Log trapping would be funny.
The main sport I think of when I think of Star Wars is pod racing. But, NASCAR is not in the Olympics, so
yeah,
I don't know if that is equivalent.
I wouldn't see that happening in the Olympics. Maybe the Jedi could compete with fencing, something similar to fencing.
Just straight up kill someone.
No,
I guess they could put it on stun mode. I like high stakes lightsaber fencing, but
sure.
To each their own. I do wonder if they'd have to have a separate league for Force users, or would they even let Force users in?
I think they could.
Kind of the same way they have to test athletes for performance-enhancing substances. Maybe they have to take an M count of everyone.
I wonder if they could have a couple of Jedi as judges to be keeping an eye on something like that.
Because I do kind of think it'd be interesting to have Force Olympics. I don't think the Jedi would be into that. They wouldn't want to show off their powers, but who can throw that rock the farthest?
Yeah.
With only their mind. Who can mind trick the most people at once?
That is, yeah, no, that's dangerous territory for the Jedi to be competing in their Force abilities.
I think that the Jedi would be very like, no, we wouldn't do that. This isn't a parlor trick. But then just like a standard Force user would be like, hell yeah, I'll throw a rock.
We know there's wrestling or something similar to wrestling because we saw it in The Mandalorian. When Din goes to visit someone, he's like,
that was just like another fight to the death.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, but let's dial it back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Take away their vibro axes.
Yeah.
They were in a big ring, so yeah. Just don't give the Gamorreans axes.
That looked like the underground version of
Right.
whatever that sport is, so maybe the straight edge version of that, it doesn't involve killing.
I mean, yeah, I would like to see a Gamorrean wrestle a Basilisk.
There would have to be some special stipulations for Star Wars Olympics.
It would be a nightmare to figure out all the rules to something like that.
In the Summer Olympics, there's a lot of like horse related stuff. We
There
could
you
do
go.
rancors.
Oh, I was going to go to Fathier dancing.
A little rancor dressage.
Okay, yeah, get the Night Sisters in there. Or maybe it's just beast riding in general. So you have Rancors going up against Fathiers. Yeah, a lot of the standard just fighting stuff, boxing, wrestling, fencing, that's easy to do. Along the lines of your Ewoks with their slingshots, the hammer throw is very similar to the Gungans throwing their boomas.
Yeah. That's basically shot put.
Yeah. Maybe you could do like droid bowling, where you have a bunch of droids set up and you throw a booma into them.
Oh, is bowling not part of the Olympics?
I don't think so.
I like bowling. I'm not good at it, but I like it.
Torelli and Django jumpers would be great at gymnastics.
What?
Eighth brother, there was one in the Clone Wars that steals Ahsoka's lightsaber, and she could jump all over the place.
Oh.
They're just big jumpers.
Okay. High jump?
High jump,
Maybe.
Yeah, anything jumping
Long jump?
related. What about breakdancing? That's new this year. Who do you think would be the best breakdancer? Jar Jar, if it meant break everything around you.
Oh, different kind of break. He's just dancing and breaking things
Yeah.
on accident. The Basilisk came to my mind first just because we've already talked about them, but like having an extra set of arms, I bet you could do some fancy break dances. Along with enjoying watching the Olympics, we've really been loving the Kevin Hart and Kenan Thompson after show kind of thing that's going on, where
Yeah.
they just kind of cover different parts of the Olympics. This is a perfect place to bring back Fode and Bede.
Yes, I knew that's where you were going. Just who do you want to have announcing all the Olympics? Yes, Fode and Bede.
Fode and Bede is in charge. They're in charge of all of it. The after shows, the commentary during the performances.
There was another character that was voiced by Greg Proops that they said he was a Shistavenin, but he voiced all of the racing on the Colossus in Star Wars Resistance. So we could bring him in too. And then whichever one was voiced by Greg Proops, Fode or Bede, would be like, you sound awfully familiar. Completely different person. Today's video is brought to you by Raycons, who just launched their upgraded model of the best-selling everyday earbuds. The latest version comes with active ergonomic design, multi-point connectivity that lets you pair with 2 devices at once, and active noise cancellation. Just 10 minutes of charging gives you 90 minutes of battery life, and a full charge lasts for 32 hours. They're comfortable and able to fit a wider range of ear sizes, and they're weatherproof and sweat resistant, which is great because I tested mine out during a workout. They're great for active exercise or an easy walk with the dog. The multi-point connectivity is awesome if you want to share songs with someone else or listen to 2 separate sources on your own. If you've been curious about Raycons, there's no better time than the present, and Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee. Go to buyraycon.com/explain today to get 15% off your Raycon order plus free shipping. That's right, you'll get 15% off and free shipping at buyraycon.com/explained. buyraycon.com/explained. Thanks for that fun, relevant question, John. But up next, Bird asks, what is the safest and most likely option for the next animated series? And again, this could be something that gets answered at D23. We don't know, but like we did for Comic-Con, we kind of manifested some stuff, so maybe we could manifest things here. Although this is a little different from, often we're just asked, what do we want the next animated series to be? This is like if we were to make a bet, what do we think the safest option is?
My first instinct is always to go to the Jedi. But because we have Young Jedi Adventures, I am leaning more towards something involved with Ventress.
Well, that's Jedi adjacent.
Sure.
Also, yeah, I do think that is the safest option because when she came back in the Bad Batch, those showrunners basically said, don't worry, we're going to show you more Ventress in future stuff.
Mm.
To me, that means it could be something like Tales of Ventress or whatever she would fall under. But if I were to just make my safe pick, I would say there's a series that involves Ventress around the corner.
Me personally, I think it's more likely that Ventress will come back in a Tales of the whatever, Tales of blank show. Just because, like, the only thing I can think of for, like, a main show storyline that involves Ventress would be the Path. And I don't know that that is a strong enough subject to hold an entire new animated show.
I think that it is.
I know a lot of people do think that it is, and I for some reason I just don't.
So it could be a new Jedi baby every week that they have to save. That's like your favorite thing.
I do.
You
like
love
Jedi
those little
babies.
Jedi babies.
That's true.
So I don't think it would be just about the Path. Like, yeah, it's hard to guess what the focus would be because I think there's a lot going on in that time period. Again, this is like not my pick for what I want next because we've had so many stories set during this specific era and time period.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see them just building off of the Bad Batch, continuing with that animation style, which looks great, and keeping that story going as like just another continuation of the whole Clone Wars story. Clone Wars, Bad Batch, and then The Path or whatever.
Yeah.
So Asajj is in it. Quinlan could be in it. You can pull in several other characters around that time as they are trying to keep Jedi safe, keep new Force-sensitive children safe. You can also cover Maul and Crimson Dawn, and we can finally use that Dryden Voss character model that I kept harping on back in the Clone Wars Season 7.
Mm-hmm.
They made the model. They're gonna use him sometime. So I think that's the safest, most obvious choice.
I do wonder if it would be an option to do a post Rise of Skywalker animated show about Rey and Finn and Poe, just to get people hyped for Rey's movie, because now we have a 15-year gap
Right.
between the end of the Rise of Skywalker and her next film. So what are they up to in those 15 years?
I could totally see that if they have that story written and figured out, and this is what it's going to be, and so then they've basically set in stone what that time period is going to look like. I think that means that we could start exploring that 15-year gap.
Yeah.
And it's not like they'd have to go too deep into it. It could just be 1 year after the Rise of Skywalker. Finn is Rey's Padawan.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for other Force-sensitive kids. They're starting the academy that we will eventually see. Hopefully it's like thriving in the New Jedi Order.
I would
movie.
honestly love that. I've been dying for some more sequel trilogy content, and I think it makes a lot of sense to do another animated show in that era just to get people hyped for the upcoming film.
I think that they have been holding off from doing that and touching that era because of the New Jedi Order movie. So yeah, I think that the floodgates will probably start to open up soon. For another prediction, Andy Duggan asks, what do we hope the next big publishing initiative is after the High Republic ends? So we're still like less than a year away from the High Republic ending, but I do hope that they do something similar to the High Republic where they just get a handful of authors and they get to carve out their own time period or corner of the galaxy or whatever. They get to craft their own story and they kind of rinse and repeat that process.
Off the top, I want to say if Rey and the sequel trilogy is off the table for the animated project, I would say this for the journey to the Rey movie kind of book series might be the next little initiative. But Now that Plagueis has been reintroduced into the mix, I wonder if we go back even further and start talking about some Old Republic stuff.
I do love those old, like the Darth Bane books, which those are 1,000 years before the Phantom Menace. Like doing some old Sith Lord stuff, which it could be kind of like a High Republic, but for the Sith.
Yeah.
the Low Republic or like the worst of the word.
When the Sith are at their best.
Right. I mean, that could be dark, but also to me, that feels like something that should be saved for movies.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not to say that just like the High Republic started as publishing, went into a live action series, it could be a testing ground like that. But I'm going to kind of cop out here and just say I don't have a wish for what's next, because I never would have requested, let's do the High Republic. Like, I had no idea what that was at the time, and it was something that they kind of created organically as a bunch of writers. I want them to do that. I want to be surprised by whatever it is that they have as their vision, and make it something that I never would have guessed, because our impulse is to go to things that we already know about instead of like sitting down and really thinking of a crazy outside of the box idea. And I want something outside of the box.
Yeah, I want to continue exploring new characters, new stories, new time periods. So, I mean, they can only go two directions, really.
Yeah.
So, one of those two, Old Republic or post-Rise of Skywalker, I'd be down for either.
In honor of Deadpool and the Wolverine, Paravnigma asks, are there any Star Wars characters that have broken the fourth wall like Deadpool? It's been a minute since I've read the Tag and Bink comics. I think I read them in 2017 or 18, like right before Solo came out. I read them when they were first released, and then I refreshed my memory then, but that was 6 years ago. I think that they do some fourth wall breaks in there, but that might be it. The only other thing I could think of that comes close is 3PO when he's rushing to the Falcon and Han closes the door on him in Hoth, and he kind of turns to the camera and goes, typical.
But you can't really tell exactly where he's looking.
Right. And even if you could, like, I don't think he's going, oh, typical.
Yeah, he's just talking to himself.
Right. So there's nothing on the level of Deadpool looking directly into the camera and saying something smarmy.
I wonder if George ever planned for Jar Jar to do that in the prequels.
If a character were going to do it, I could kind of see that happening.
I'm like trying to think if there was any moments that Jar Jar had that was close.
I mean, just him going like, how wooed could have easily been how wooed right into the camera. Like, can you believe this droid?
Another thought I had was R2-D2. Like, we don't know what he's talking about, who he's talking to. We could go forward and just say almost all of his lines are to the audience.
Everything he says is a fourth wall break. Yeah. I think that's a funny choice. It's kind of like BB-8 doing the I have a bad feeling about this and people not wondering where it was in The Last Jedi. Like, yeah, R2 could be breaking the fourth wall constantly.
It would be funny, too, if somehow, like, in a comic or something, there was an actual Deadpool in Star Wars and Deadpool sees R2 doing that and is like, wow, I thought I had a potty mouth, you know?
Yeah. I do love that running joke that everyone says R2 has a foul mouth.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, who do you think would be the most likely to do a fourth wall break? And I love Jar Jar as an answer.
Yeah, I do too. I think he would be the funniest, and he would be the one that I think the most people would accept something like that happening.
Yeah. Like, why not? Of course.
Yeah.
Maybe Greedo. I was also thinking of Greedo when he says McClunky. Like,
oh yeah,
that he looked directly into the camera when he said it. Like, I'm gonna change this scene again.
Yeah.
And our last question for the week comes from Elo Asti, who asks, which Star Wars personality has given us the best handshake? So anyone that we've met through Star Wars. And I'll say that my first thought didn't go to a handshake, but I do think that Daniel Jose Older is a very good hugger. And he's always very excited and nice and goes out of his way to say hello to us if we're at an event, or like we ran into him at Disney World on the Haunted Mansion or Disneyland.
Yeah.
Back at Celebration, and he's always like just excited to see and meet everyone. Cameron Monaghan, super nice, super
nice.
personable.
He looks right into your soul. So yeah, I'll go with him.
He did. I mean, you're joking a little bit, but yeah, like he stunned me too. He made me take a step back just because he remembered me.
Yeah.
When I had met him several years before. Christina Ariel also was another great hugger.
Oh yeah. Kristen Baver.
Yeah.
Very friendly, also a great hugger.
I just thought about, I can't believe it took me this long, but I mean, Donald Faison let me jump on his back.
Yeah.
And then was...
That was more of a Scrubs moment than a Star Wars moment,
right.
but that counts.
He let me do that, and was just very friendly when I got to meet him and get that picture signed and everything. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I can't think of any like handshakes that were really jumping out at me, but yeah, lots of other ways of interacting, like hugs and piggyback rides. Maybe
Sam Witwer, because the handshake included a lot of mutual trivia respect.
Yeah, that was a good one. So the first Schmodown event I did, he was competing and sitting next to me, and he beat me, but gave me...
Just barely.
Yeah, but gave me like a holy crap, man, look and handshake, and was like, you did amazing.
Neil is sitting at the moment here. I'm going to give a quick interview to Sam. Thank you guys so much, very much, guys.
And so, yeah, that was a lot of fun. That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.